Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Welcome back to the podcast. Today we have Fred Creutzer with Creutzer Financial Services in Bel Air, Maryland. How you doing, Fred?
Doing fantastic, Gary.
Thanks for joining me today.
Oh, you're welcome.
So tell me a little bit about what made you pursue the career in business and what you're doing now.
Like a lot of young folks, I followed my father in the business. My dad was working for an insurance company for 37 years. I followed him at the age of 25. I'm now 56 years of age. So I've been doing this a long time, and it came in as an insurance man, but I really had the lure and helping people look at not just their insurance, but their whole financial situation. That's where the financial advisor really was more attractive to me.
Okay. What, kind of, if you knew now what then, what would that one item be?
That one item truly was, a 25-year-old kid coming into business. It was an insurance business. Didn't really understand how important it was that you really push that savings envelope a little bit harder, maybe in the very beginning. I did like everyone else. I did the match of the 401k. Probably should have done a little bit more. Now I'm reaping the benefits from what I did start at 25. I think a lot of my fellow friends that came into our business maybe later in life, and they really didn't understand the power of starting savings young. And it doesn't matter what your job is. If you're the guy who's working as a mechanic and they offer you a 401k, making sure you not just do what they're offering you, the match them, but put a little bit extra in. When I came in, I was an insurance guy. I wasn't the investment side. My dad was an insurance man. He didn't teach me investments. But boy, oh boy, I wish I would have started a little bit earlier, but maybe be a little bit more aggressive than I probably was told to be.
Okay. What, I guess, defines success?
Success for me has always been, I have a crazy work ethic. Even with this pandemic, I'm here every single day. I'll take calls at night, do whatever I got to do. My dad was a guy who didn't have a high school education, became one of the most successful insurance men. So to follow his footsteps, I don't want to be giving success because I'm my dad's son. I had a chip on my shoulder to make sure every day that I earned where I was in life. But the beautiful thing about success is it comes in the form of helping others. And what you and I do, we're sitting down with folks to put them in a better position. At the same time, we get rewarded for it. And success also comes because you're referred. If you're doing the right thing for a client, they tell their friends, you need to call Fred or you need to call Gary. Success comes in many different ways, but I want to be as successful as can be. I want to give that to my children as well, that they see dad has work ethic, which unfortunately we joke about a lot of times in today's society is not where it was 30 years ago. But if we instill that in our children, dad goes to work every day, whether he has to or not, he has that work ethic. And I think everything begins and ends with work ethic. It's how we were raised back in those days. And success comes with that. If you put in the time, you stay knowledgeable, whatever your practice is, the rewards are going to come with it.
What are some of the questions your clients should be asking you that they don't ask?
Some of the questions they should ask is, and we chat about it on a personal basis, is, am I maximizing all my monies? And what that means is not always is it growing our monies, but let's say we're a retiree. Am I maximizing my ability to take money out of my accounts? Because we know what our tax bracket is today, and the client doesn't look at the exit plan of their money as much as they look at the growth of their money. And I'm here to make sure everybody understands the exit plan is just as important as getting the money to grow to where we want to be. And what that means is right now, a husband and wife can make up to $70,000 of joint gross income, and they're only at a federal tax bracket of 12%. Most of us during the working years, we're probably in anywhere from a 27 to 29% tax bracket. If we pass away, a lot of our clients don't ever ask the question is, what's the tax impacts to my children, to my heirs? I don't think they ever ask it. I bring it up because I am concerned about the transfer of wealth. And wealth means not giving IRS the biggest benefit. So they're always about accumulation. They're never about the exit plan. And it's not their fault. It's simply something that's out of their mindset as far as where am I going to be in the long term. But an exit plan with the money, and when I say exit, doesn't mean you dissolve the money, but maybe I go ahead and pay taxes now at 12% or 22 if I'm making up to $160,000, still a great federal tax bracket. But then maybe I move it into an after-tax account, added TOD to it for my husband and wife. Now those assets pass to my children 100% tax-free.
So what are some of your clients' biggest fears and concerns, and how did you address those with them?
The biggest concerns to the average person out there is a lot of things. They want you to look at the big picture. When you really sit down and you start asking questions, the average financial advisor is not asking them, how do we maximize your Social Security? You cannot view Social Security by its own entity. The only way you look at Social Security is knowing, do I have other assets maybe I could pull from while I leave Social Security to continue to grow? Other aspects of Social Security, how's my life expectancy? Am I a healthy individual? Am I expected to live to age 80, 85 years of age? There's so many questions we really need to look at in the big picture for the client. And it's not just their money. The money is one aspect of it, but do they have a pension? What is their life expectancy? Social Security, when do I turn it on? A lot of people don't realize Social Security in the state of Maryland, at least, we pay no state tax on Social Security benefits. In the perfect world, I want that to be their largest check coming to them in retirement. Now, we also got to hedge a bet. What if the larger of the two incomes dies earlier and we took it early? We sucked up one benefit for the rest of our life. We're stuck with that lower benefit for the rest of our life. For my personal situation, my income is substantially more than my wife's will ever be. I'm going to leave my Social Security alone until age 70. Why is that? Well, God forbid I died at 71. My wife will always have my benefit going forward for the rest of her life. When you take the larger benefit early, you sacrifice that secondary person, because we all forget that when one of us dies, one of the Social Security check is gone. It's gone forever, the lower one. So maybe we turn the smaller one early, and the reason being is we get that income coming in the door, but we're not relying on that as the long-term benefits. We are relying on the larger benefit. And then you say, well, how do I make up with that? Well, we're talking about tax brackets. If I could pull money out of my IRA now to leave my Social Security grow, and I can pull it out at a 12% federal tax bracket, I win. I'm ahead of the game because I'm betting on the long game. A lot of our clients, and it's not their fault, it's not what they do for a living, they're always looking at the short game. Where am I going to be in 2 years, 3 years? I'm going to make this decision now, but they're not looking about, when I make those decisions, how's it going to affect me 10 years from today? Life expectancy today. The average person today is living well into their 80s. It's nothing uncommon today to see somebody living in their 90s or 100. So what if I plan my retirement at 62, 63, and I live to age 82, and I took these benefits at the worst time possible? So again, when we sit down with a client, it's not just asking about their money, it's looking at the whole picture and making sure they're understanding where we're trying to go in the long run.
So what's the most common mistake that you see your clients make?
Turning on Social Security when they don't even need it. They literally will say to me, Fred, I turned it on because I spoke to him. And I always say, don't talk to Water Cooler Joe for financial advice. They're sitting there, and what is their friend saying to them? You need to turn on Social Security. You won't live long enough to recoup what you would have lost. Well, it's a 12-year scale, the difference between if I turned it on 62. So if I live to 70, I make it to age 82, I'm in a win-win situation. And if it's not me living 82, maybe it's my wife. But they're talking to their friend, they're saying, oh, Social Security's not going to be there for you when you get there. I don't believe that for a minute, that it's not going to be there, because if you think about it, every single American is dependent on Social Security. If we could pull out $3 trillion to help out Americans today, I think they'll figure out a way to make sure Social Security is there for Americans. Because we're in a society today where only less than 40% of Americans have a pension. So what do you think the most guaranteed thing that they're expecting in life? It's Social Security. And if we take that away from Americans, we're going to have people that can't eat food. We're not going to have people that can't go out and do anything. So taking your Social Security on because your friend told you to is the worst mistake possible. And you might not even need to turn it on, Gary.
Yeah, I hear that quite often with the tax advice with people. Well, so-and-so told me that I need to do this. And so I'm right there with you. Why is having someone like you, a financial advisor, helpful for a client?
It's no different than we also do taxes in our office, and we have an accountant here. Having somebody guide us in a portion of life, we all need that. I always joke about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, to me, was the greatest basketball player ever. He never stops thanking the coaches that helped him along the way, whether it been a Dean Smith, whether it was when he was with the Bulls, and when the greatest athletes of the world always had a coach on their side. I don't know everything. I have an accountant do my taxes. And I'm a pretty smart guy. I could probably do them on my own. But I need the advice as well. Whether it be going to a gym and you haven't been in a gym in 15 years, asking for a trainer to sit down with you and get you on a routine, on a situation. But we're talking about the greatest thing you have in front of you, which is your future. And you want somebody who has eyes looking at all aspects, the Social Security. Am I invested properly? Am I invested too aggressive for my age? Obviously, we can't invest like we did when we were 30, when we're 60, because we can't take the hits. But somebody who's going to look at all aspects and the taxes. When do I take money in and out? This is not easy stuff. You want somebody who's seasoned. You want a kid, not knocking the young guys out there, but a new kid who just got his financial advisor degree. You want somebody with a little gray hair on their head who's been around for a long time. We've seen situations, Gary, like we're dealing with today with the pandemic. We haven't seen this before, but we saw what happened in 07, 08. We saw what happened in 2000, 2001. And we guided people then, and we're guiding people today. And those phone calls that come in to know that they got somebody to talk to instead of, in fact, this weekend, had a guy come up to my Delaware house to move his 401k. The company has dissolved, but he couldn't have been any more thankful. He left it there. He's been retired from that company for 5 years, but he had no one to tell him what to do. It came through a referral. And when he left our house, he was so appreciative that somebody's there for him to talk to as he gets into this world called retirement. And, when you feel it from the clients to know that connection's there, you have a person. And I'm not a big believer in, hey, I go to this place here and 6 months later it's a new person. Have an advisor who's going to stay with the same company you're with for many years ahead. Ask that question. What is your plan? Ask your advisor. Are they going to stay at the banking industry for the next 30 years? Probably not. They come and go. But have a trusted advisor to hold you by the hand, because they're going to have questions. They're going to have situations, and they're going to want somebody to talk to. We all do.
Right. So working with such a wide variety of people and issues, what's the most important thing that you think that you've learned so far?
Is number one is to minimize the risk. When I have a client over the age of 60, I'm a big football fan. So to give you an analogy, as a football player, And the coach, when you have the ball in the 20-yard line, we like to call that the red zone. And the red zone is important because most of us believe that our kicker can make at least 3 points at that point. What can we not afford to do when we're in the red zone? A fumble, an interception. And that's invested in properly. Investing, because I let it be, hey, 20 years ago, it recovered from 07, 08, but now I'm 64. I can't invest and assume that I'm going to recover, because what I'm getting closer to, Gary, is what you help your clients with, is I'm getting closer to the withdrawal phase now. Before I was in the accumulation phase, but I'm getting closer to that thing called the accumulation phase. What can I not do during accumulation phase? I can't take a big gut punch. I can't lose 40% at this stage of my life. I'm going to retire. I'm not putting new money in anymore. So the biggest thing that we guide people in is making sure they're positioned. So when these days happen, like we're dealing with right today, that you're not losing sleep, your position, you might have lost a little bit, but you will be able to recover because we weren't that aggressive.
Right. Who would be the ideal client for you, and what would their pain points be?
The pain points would be, my ideal client would be somebody over the age of 59 and a half. They haven't decided what to do with their 401k yet. Because when we're over the age of 59 and a half, we can leave our money in a 401k, but now you have an in-service withdrawal ability. Now, let's say I've accumulated $500,000 with the company I've worked for 30 years. But inside that 401k, I'm allowed 15 choices. Most of them are lifestyle funds, but they're 15 choices. They're really not truly diversified. And if we pass away, we leave our money in a 401k, we know what the inherited IRA is. If I leave $500,000, that company, the 401k, does not work with the children. They'll work with a spouse. The spouse can leave it there, but what happens to the children? So we're talking about education. We're talking about guiding. We can position that 401k into an IRA. So now I have up to 10 years, if I'm the child, to withdraw mom and dad's 401k IRA. But if I leave it in the 401k, there's nobody who can give me advice on the other side to say to my kids, sit down with them and say, hey guys, here's our options. You can take it in a lump sum still, but you now can take it and spread it possibly over 10 years and minimize the tax effects of that. So it's really important that we look at that 59 and a half ages. That's where we really can insert ourselves to start the process. And then we start to lay out, what is your goals in life? What is your goals to, when you're going to retire? Obviously at 50, you're probably not there yet. But when you get to that 59 and a half, now you have the ability to move your 401k. You can start putting all your things in order, position things properly. Can't do it at 55 because, again, your employer, 401k, doesn't allow you to move money out. You still contribute if you're going to work for that company for many years to come. But in the meantime, you can get that lump sum repositioned into an IRA. So now I have a little bit more options out there as far as investment risk.
Right. What would you like to see the first steps that one of these ideal clients would make?
First thing is making sure that they're willing to work and, be open-minded. I'm going to share things with them such as Social Security. Every client that comes in here, they got to bring a Social Security statement. We're going to go through a process, but they got to be open-minded to understand that they heard this, they were told something before they ever walked in my door about what a financial advisor is. And what I want them to do is open your mind. Let's just clear it out, and now let's start to build a process together. They got to be open-minded to be willing to take advice. Godly, I coached sports for, 16 years between my 3 kids. The best kids were the ones who listened. Obviously, I had the guidance to give it to them, but those kids who listened, number one, they're lifetime friends today. But they were the best athletes. And you hear that today in professional sports. The athlete who's not above the team, he's about being part of the team. Well, you got to let go your pre-notions of what you thought you were going to do in retirement. When you meet with an advisor, you're coming here for me to guide you. But if you're going to come in here with a closed mind, we're never going to communicate. You got to open your mind, because most people, I'm telling you, Gary, they have to set their mind when they're going to turn on Social Security before they ever walk in this door. And all of a sudden now, I'm telling them that's not a smart move. And they got to be willing, and honestly, 90-some% listen, because I'm giving them an angle of how we maximize the big picture. But you still got the 10%, their mindset, this is what they're going to do. You can't work with those folks, unfortunately.
Right. So what are the biggest challenges that you're facing right now?
Right now, obviously, we're not able to sit down. My business is an in-front person business where we can connect. When a client comes in here, we're doing a Zoom interview, we're doing stuff over the phone, which is what we're doing. It's nice, but it's not that warm feeling that they can connect with us. I'm asking questions when they're in front of me, but on the phone, it's a little bit more awkward to get that fuzzy feeling. Or if they're a prospect, for them to really give you all the information, because they don't know me. They're looking at me on a Zoom interview, or they're on the phone with me. They're not feeling, number one, my professionalism, hopefully. That's what I'm hopefully delivering to them. On a Zoom interview, it's not the same. The disconnect is not as we had when we're in person with somebody. I think the human being loves contact. This epidemic is so terrible because we're losing our social abilities just to be out there to talk to people, be in front of people, connect with people. Can't shake a hand today. Golly, that's how I was brought up in this business. You connect with a handshake. My dad would always joke and say, don't ever give somebody a fish. That loose handshake. Right. Grip it with like a man would grip it. Even my wife gives a hell of a handshake, but you grip them with a handshake and you connect with somebody. We're missing that personal touch right now. Right. It's tough. In all businesses, it's tough.
Yeah, it's definitely, we're definitely in a different time now than we've ever been in. That's for sure. What would you like to share with our listeners that I haven't already asked you?
Well, my ideal client is somebody who's later in life, because there's so many tools we can start to put in motion before they turn them on. So I want the guy or gal before they turn on Social Security. If I meet them at 66 and they've already turned it on, it's hard to reverse the things that have already happened. But one of the things I always say is those clients that are 59, 60 years of age, they got kids. And I cannot emphasize enough. I don't believe, I believe that Social Security is going to push back what they call FRA. Right now, for somebody born after 1960, we don't get full retirement age benefits till we are 67 years of age. I think for the younger generation, it's going to be 68. They're going to push it back because of the situation where it's being underfunded. That scares me because we're dealing with a bunch of kids that are coming out with college loans. They probably don't have a job paying off the debt the way that they thought they were going to do. And they're not saving, Gary. That 25-year-old kid, I came right out, man, I was saving. I didn't have a huge college debt. Most of us in that generation, we didn't. But I think about these kids today, and if they get that job, they don't think they can afford to put away. They've got to create the habit, because they're not going to have possibly, unless they're a federal or state worker, they're probably not going to have a pension. Social Security is going to get pushed back. They need to create the savings. And if you had $1 million today, just think if you got $1 million and everybody says, oh, God, he's a millionaire. He's so set in life. Well, if you got $1 million in the bank and I can withdraw 5% a year, that's only $50,000 a year of income to keep my hen fat. So to that young person, don't wait till you're 35 when you can put in 10 grand a year. I don't care if you can only put in a couple grand a year. Mom and dad, bring them to somebody. Let them sit down with somebody who can show them the value on a calculator, the difference between what a 25-year-old does and a 35-year-old does. Because I care about the youth in this world and where they're going to be in 30, 40 years. I was blessed that, I started in the business, and my dad said, hey, Fred, whatever they match, you put it in. I did it. But I see the young today, and maybe their company doesn't have it. Doesn't stop them from doing a Roth IRA. And why do they want to do a Roth IRA? The tax breaks they get on that $5,000 or $4,000 they can put in there is minuscule compared to letting that compound over the next 40 years and getting the whole hen tax-free down the road. I don't think we put enough emphasis in education to the value a young person can do by putting money in a Roth IRA. Let that compound, because what you find is, and you can do this stat, if a 25-year-old puts money away, $5,000 a year, and he puts it away, he put in $200,000. But if it's worth $1 million, that $1 million is tax-free. He only got a tax break on the $200,000. So was that tax break that significant to a young person? I don't think so. I'd rather have $1 million tax-free. And again, I think the emphasis we need is educate the youth too. The guy is 55 years of age, Gary, we're not going to change him if they haven't created the Roth side of it. But we certainly can help the youth of those parents and making sure they're positioned for the long run, because, when I take money out of my IRAs, are probably similar to you, and I see $1 million in there, Gary, it's not worth $1 million because it hasn't been taxed yet. Correct. It's based on your tax bracket. So if I got to give 22% federal tax and 7% state tax, I just lost in one day 29% of that $1 million. So the youth have got to be learned early the benefits. The average kid today is living at home till they're almost the age of 30. Not shockingly, because they're paying college debt. But that doesn't mean if they're living at home, they can't make sure they're doing that investment from that youth. Because it's like a snowball coming down a mountain. The higher the peak is, the more that snowball is going to take the benefits. And it's not in your 40s and 50s. You're going to pull magic out of a hat. It's in your youth. So I think one thing we always say is, let's reach out to the young kids out there, making sure they're on a plan too.
Right. So where should listeners go to learn more about you and be able to connect with you?
We have a website, Creutzer, Creutzer, financial.com. We do currently, I do the financial advice for a couple TV stations here locally in the Maryland area. I do with Fox News and I do WBAL. Always try to change the pattern of what we talk about, because the whole aspect of retirement and financial planning, there's so many different angles. And one thing I always say, Gary, it's an individual situation for every single person that comes in here. There's no two people that are exactly like. I have yet to have two people that have the exact Social Security amount when they hit 67 or 70. Everyone's got to understand you're an individual. Make sure whoever talks to you looks at you as an individual and you're not being put to a cookie cutter situation.
All right. So today we had Fred Creutzer with Creutzer Financial Services. Fred, I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you, Gary.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.